Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. So, this podcast, as you know, has been a great tool for me to increase my network. It has been a great networking tool. I've had podcast interviews with people that I would never imagine being able to speak to and to even have coffee with. They would not, a lot of the guests on this podcast would not have coffee with me if I asked. But this podcast has been a great channel for them to warm up to me and also for me to actually get to know them as well. So I'll give you some of the networking tips I have. I'm of a person that is very passionate about networking, and I practice it day to day. And besides my podcast, I do meet people on a weekly basis to network, get to know them, and also see opportunities to collaborate. So number one tip when it comes to networking is to actually have a goal. All right. So this is something that I see people who are not passionate about networking, the main thing that they struggle with. All right. So if you do something and there is no, let's say there is no result that you want from it, or there's no end goal, it's very hard. Like they say, hey, network for what? Right. So you need to identify your goals. The best way is to have a podcast like this or have an article or a blog, anything, right? As long as you have that platform, it gives you an excuse to network. So if you go to an event, besides you can say, hey, I want to get new business. I want to look for potential collaborators, or I want to actually get people on the podcast. So it gives you an excuse to network. So it gives you a goal to aim towards. Number two, look for those who are who are you looking to network with, right? Identify those who are valuable to you. So I always say this: if you are looking for money on the floor, you you will eventually find it, right? You will eventually find it. So identify the thought leaders and business leaders that you want to network with. It can be business leaders, CEOs, CFOs. Know who they are, right? So I don't want you to spend time networking with everyone. If your goal is to network with students, network with student leaders, right? So you need to know who they are. So once you know who they are, find out where they hang out. So this is me personally as well. So I love talking to business leaders, right? So one way I can approach them is, of course, LinkedIn is my number one platform, but I'm not restricting myself to LinkedIn. I've reached out to people in events, so get to know which events they attend. Maybe not LinkedIn, maybe they are on Twitter, maybe they're on Instagram. Reach out to them on those platforms. Find out which business communities they are part of. They might be part of a business council. They might be part of a chamber of commerce. Find out where these businesses are and be there. Find out where they are first, right? So it's not hard to find the digital footprint of someone. They can be part of any community or what social media they have, right? So find out where they are. Number four, so this is very important, is if you meet someone, of course, you can introduce yourself, is to connect and collaborate, right? So you can connect and collaborate. So my podcast is a great way to collaborate and find ways to collaborate or find ways to invite them to events. So collaboration is very important. So creating content together is great. So have an excuse, have a platform to do that. Find opportunities to collaborate. So that is very important. You do this through the podcast, or you can actually write blogs or collaborate with them in events or any type of marketing. So the next one is also fairly important, is follow up, right? So very rarely that someone, if they meet you for the first time, or even if they are on your podcast, that they will remember you forever. You're not so they have a lot of things going on in their lives, especially important business people. So follow up is key. Even after number one, when I get guests on the podcast, sometimes it's the fifth time I follow up with the same person, right? So don't give up, follow up. I have a system. I have notes and systems to follow up with people, and every day I sit down on my, I sit down and I say, hey, who are the 5 people that I can message today that can make a difference? So following up is so key. Nothing happens automatically, and doesn't mean that the person that did not reach out to you doesn't mean they are not interested. They're just busy, or it did not occur to them. So following up is very key. I've met people that follow up many times. So following up again and again. Last tip I would give when it comes to networking is to have interesting conversations, right? So my big tip, if how do you know when you have built a meaningful connection with someone, is when you share your vulnerability, right? So if they share with you, oh, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with this recruitment problem, I'm looking for this person, or I am looking to advance, to grow to this market. So this one requires some skill, but once you identify their vulnerability and you help them, that builds their relationship. And if you could share your own vulnerability as well, share your own shortcomings and challenges, that helps to build a different level of connection. It's not just surface level, you go to the next level. So reflect on the relationships you have or the connections you have. When you have a deep relationship is when you share and you help each other out, and you are transparent with your challenges and shortcomings. So that makes us all human. So if we are all always just talking about our successes, it does not build that relationship. So that requires practice as well, and doesn't come very often, but that is my biggest learning I have when it comes to networking. If you exchange vulnerabilities, that is a great way to build that connection. So these are my networking tips. I would say every day I'm very passionate about this. I'm looking through social media. Who can I connect with? I'm looking through news media articles, reading newspapers, listening to radio, listening to podcasts, who I can network with. So I'm very excited about this. So let me know if you have any questions on the networking, the topic of networking. You can comment down below, reach out to me on LinkedIn. So thank you for listening to the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon podcast. So we talk to business leaders in Asia. So please subscribe and follow us on these platforms as well. Thank you so much, and speak to you soon.